Hello, my name is Nifty Nomi and welcome to my live action bookkeeping video. I am now covering June week number 1, so that's June 1st to 7th, and I'll be dividing this week into 4 separate videos. This is the first of 4 June week number 1 videos. This is video number 11 in the Grand Gate Gardens case study, and this video covers the charges in June week number 1. And I'll be turning on the new QBO AI Bank feed interface. Check out the link below to find out how to download the documents, request a topic, or find out more about my case study project. Now, on to the bookkeeping. So, here we are in the Grand Gate Gardens QBO case study file, and we have here the June paperwork, and I'm going to start with June week 1. Now, the very first thing I'm going to do is I am going to upload the first week of the bank feed downloads into the QBO file. So my style of bookkeeping is that I start with the source documents and I put the source documents in as entries into the bookkeeping file, and then I go to the bank feed. I match or marry the bank feed info lines to the transaction entries already entered, and then look to see what doesn't have matches and decide what to do with those, either add them or find the entry and correct it so it does match. So the reason, though, that I start by making sure that the bank feed is there when I go to do the bookkeeping is because I often use the bank feed as a reference to sort of troubleshoot as I enter in the paperwork. So maybe somebody's given me paperwork that's in USD funds, and I want to see what the Canadian funds amount is when it hit the credit card. Or maybe somebody's given me a receipt but hasn't said how it was paid, and I can just jump over there to see if it's on the bank feed for the bank or the credit card, so on and so forth. So having that bank feed, having the statements is very important, very helpful to make your bookkeeping more efficient and easier, more accurate to do. That's why we're going to start with uploading these bank feeds. Now, I have provided them as a QBO bank feed format that they might look like if you download that file type from the bank or if you have the bank feed connected directly. But I've also provided the CSV files because that's another way that they can be uploaded into QBO, or if you're using this case study source documents for a different bookkeeping program such as Xero or something like that. So let me go ahead. We're going to go to transactions, and we can see that this months of case study is going to be different. I am going to be using the suggested AI bank feed and giving a few pointers and my experience with it. But first of all, let's just go ahead and upload the feeds. The first one is the Canada Bank checking. This one, you can see we've cleared away everything from last month. So I'm going to drop this down and upload from file because I have the file and I don't have the bank feed directly connected to the bank, because it's a fake bank. It's a case study. Continue, and this is the Canada Bank checking. This, continue, done. And I'm going to also do upload from file. The next one is the savings. Drag that over, and we're going to continue. Savings, like this. Done. And I'm going to upload from file. Yes, one at a time. CIBT line of credit has transactions in this first week of June. This. And continue. Done. And we are going to upload the last one. It is the Triangle M card from June 1st to June 7th. So Triangle. Continue and done. So as you can see, this is still in the classic bank feed mode. I'll leave it there for now as I enter the source document paperwork, but when we go ahead and start clearing that bank feed, we are going to switch it to the AI-powered bank feed, and then you'll have a taste of what the new AI one looks like as well. Okay, so now that we have those bank feeds in, let's take a look at week 1. I'm going to choose with notes for this video. And we're going to start with the charges. So the very first one we see is an e-transfer printout that Sarah has forwarded to us. And what this e-transfer printout is, it is $250 that she e-transferred to herself. This is how she pays her CIBT line of credit, is with e-transfers. So basically, this is a transfer of funds from the CBank or Canada Bank checking over to the CIBT line of credit. Now, I do have a note on this one that says, by the way, this payment was actually noted on the May statement of the CIBT line of credit. Like Sarah wrote on there, paid this statement, because there's a minimum payment and it's due, and she writes on her bills when she pays them. So she wrote on the statement, paid $250 June 1st. So we may or may not have entered this already. Also, we may or may not have entered it from the bank fees. Now, I haven't for the purposes of this case study right now, but this is something that did happen a month ago, and you are getting all of this paperwork in. And so these sort of things happen. You do get transfers entered in twice. And we are going to troubleshoot what that looks like when that happens with this final installment of the June Grand Gate Gardens case study. So you don't have to do this unless you want to practice troubleshooting on your case study, but we're going to go ahead and enter this e-transfer in using the transfer screen. And then later on in the case study, we are going to stumble across this double-entered transfer and how we deal with those double-entered transfers when one transfer is matched to the bank and one transfer is matched to the line of credit. So let's go ahead. Put this in. We are going to say new. Now I'm going to say transfer. When we entered it in May, I showed how you could put in a transfer as an expense. So the one that we entered a few weeks ago, that's in as an expense. And now I'm going to put this one in with a transfer entry screen. So we're going to say this was from Canada Bank, actually. So from Canada Bank checking over to the CIBT, there it is, line of credit. It was $250 and that was June 1st. Now, I only ever use transfers for transfers, like from bank to bank or from credit card or whatever, or line of credit. And the reason that I do this is because sometimes people use this transfer if they're like, oh, that's a purchase from Walmart. That's just a shareholder loan or owner's draw. And when they do that, when you see the details on the shareholder loan or owner's draw GL account, it doesn't say the name. There's no name here on this screen. It doesn't say Walmart because maybe the owner would be like, hold on, whenever I go to Walmart, that's for office supplies, right? And if they say that though, if you find out later that all the Walmarts are actually office supplies, you can't change this transfer to make this expense office supplies HST. So that's not an option. You can only transfer to other banks and credit cards and assets like that. So only ever use a transfer for actual transfers and never use it for anything else. So I'm going to go save and close. Again, this is a double entered transfer that we are going to tackle later on in the case study. So let's see what's next. We have an Esso receipt. Here we go. And we can see it's just regular gas. It's paid by the business credit card. But here's the issue with these. I did discuss it in a previous video, is that her vehicle is used less than 50% for business. So the fact that she's paying the gas out of the business's bank account is can be annoying because it's not actually 100% business expense. But it is helping us sort of track the personal vehicle expenses, maybe for the tax adjustment at the end of the year. But the way that my style of bookkeeping is, and again, this is just a Naomi style, is that if there is like specific like mixed use, like let's say that's personal, like say a mixed use vehicle or a mixed use home expense, I have a special owner's draw account for that so that maybe they can be reflected on at the end of the year. So I've discussed that in a different video, but that was just a quick recap. So let's go ahead and put this one in. So I'm going to go new, we're going to go expense, and this is Esso. And it was paid by the Triangle MC. That was June 1st. And I'm just going to say, see how last time we put this to owner's draw personal auto expense. And I noted that it was gas. And that way we know can deduce what the HST might be, because like when we look at it later, because right now I'm going to say out of scope because this is owner's draw. So we're going to like at the end of the year, figure out what the mileage was and prorate it if needed. And this amount was $69.14. And again, like I said, out of scope, we're going to just go save and new, because let's see what the next one is. Next, we have the GoTellACommunications invoice, or bill, And we can see it's charged to the personal credit card. And just to note, we didn't get the May one. We didn't get the May one. I addressed that in the May videos when we did the end of May analysis. So depending on what you're doing with your case study, you may or may not have had May in. But this June one is showing it's still going, and it'll show a hole. Like I call it a hole when you look at the profit and loss if you haven't put the May one in. But you can just go double check now as well, just to make sure you have the May one in. I have it in, quote, NR. We discussed the NR receipts, or no receipt or need receipt. So let's just go ahead and put this one in now. So even though it's like a big bill looking thing, it's got no check number to track, and the date that it's paid is the same as the incurred date or the bill date. So we just put this in as an expense entry. That's why I call it a charge. So we say this is GoTellACommunications, Owner's Banker CC, that's what we used last time. And this payment date is June 1st. And I'm just going to say get rid of the NR tag, because we actually have the receipt this month and it's internet. Remembers everything that we said last time. Oh, it does have a bill number, doesn't it? So we can put that in, invoice number 1123181. Excellent. So we're going to go save and new. And now let's see what is next in the folder. Now, this is an interesting one. We now have insurance paperwork, which is odd. Like, why do we have insurance paperwork for Grand Gate Gardens, right? You'll see this week she bought a work truck that is going to be used over 90% for business. So moving forward, any auto expenses specifically related to the truck will no longer go to owner's draw auto, but we are going to be able to use this now for the vehicle expenses for the business. So let's take a look here. We can see that it's got a lot of writing and words. Here we can see it's for the 2025 Ford F-180, which we don't have, we didn't see the purchase paperwork yet because it's in the bills folder. So heads up, that is coming down the pipeline. We can see it starts actually on June 2nd. And look how it says tax, right? That tax is not HST. This tax is not GST. This tax specifically is RST, retail sales tax, if you've ever heard of that. And what RST is it is sales tax that goes to the province in a harmonized province, right? So Ontario, we have harmonized HST, which means our HST rate is 13%. All 13% goes to CRA, and therefore all 13% a business will get back as an input tax credit or an ITC. There are some other things that you will see this on, and you'll see that later on in the June case study as well. But if it's RST, that means it only goes to the province, which means it doesn't go to CRA, which means it is not a claimable ITC, which means we just ignore the fact that it says tax. This is all auto insurance expense, period. We don't take into consideration that tax. So that's important to note. And we can see that there is a monthly payment schedule. And we can see that it's actually for the Fjord F-180, and we can stop and take a look and see the truck purchase, and we can ask Sarah, how much is this going to be used for business? She still has to keep a mileage log. If it's over 90%, like up to 100% for business, you still have to keep a mileage log. Just if it's like 100% business, just keep it for 3 months so that when audited or reviewed by CRA, you have the 3-month baseline to show, look, always used for business. So that's important to note. When you purchase a vehicle, always keep a vehicle log for the first 3 months, no matter what. And we're going to scroll down. Nothing else really of interest here except for my note that it is 90% plus for business and don't claim the tax. So coming up here, this is what we're going to be looking at right now is this payment schedule. And we can go ahead and use the bank feed for this. So you know what? Let's go ahead and turn on the AI right now. Let's see. So let's go over. We're going to turn on the AI bank feed. Try it out. All right. Whoop, oh, it's thinking. So what it's doing right now is just giving us a little play-by-play of why it's different. One thing that I do kind of like about it is that, as you can see right here, you can actually see why it's suggesting those things. This is what you categorized it to before, whereas before you weren't quite sure why it got to that conclusion. Something else is it does do, instead of the find match that it used to do, we can do the combined match right in the feed screen. It's going to be interesting to see if it does one payment or two, and we'll look at that this June. And something that I actually really like about this is, so right now you're adding a column, but look, the thing it's going to talk about is actually a transaction that already exists that it's matching to. But within the bank feed, you can modify that existing transaction to add the class sort of category. So it looks really interesting, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that I like about it. So we're going to go to transactions. And I'm just going to close the tutorial for now. So this is what it looks like as compared to the classic mode that we were just at. And right now, if you don't like it, you can go ahead and switch to the classic mode. So here we are in the new AI bank feed interface. And one of the things that I actually like about this new interface is how the information that's coming from the bank is on the left-hand side of the screen, and all of the suggestions and matches from QBO are on the right-hand side of the screen. Now, the reason I like this is in the classic bank feed, it was sort of a mix. Like the first few were from the bank, and then the suggestions were in the middle, and the amount from the bank was to the right. And because of this, the human brain and the users were often confused about what information was coming from the bank and what was a QBO suggestion. So say that there would be an Etransfer, and then in this middle part, it would say Bob, but that was just QBO guessing from last time. It wouldn't know, like, was that really from Bob or not? And then on the right, the money amounts were actually from the bank. So when it was sort of intermixed like that, a lot of users would be like, oh, well, this e-transfer is from Bob, because they weren't quite sure what was from the bank and what was a QBO suggestion. So the fact that the date, description, spent, received is all coming from the bank and everything on the right is QBO suggesting, guessing, what have you, that I think makes this a lot clearer for bank feed users. So I think that is a plus. So the reason we're going to use the bank feed right now is because we have this insurance paperwork right here, and I want to create a rule about it, because now that I'm seeing that it's going to be 100.44 every single month, and now is a great, and I have the paperwork in front of me to see what it's for, now is a great time to add that bank feed rule. So let's go ahead and play. Now this is from TIC, the insurance company, and we're looking for June 2nd, 104. So let's go take a look. And there's the insurinators, and we can see the rule that we already created last month. But here's that TIC pad. Now let's take a look. It thinks it's office expense. Now it just says TIC. I don't know. I wonder why it thinks office expense. Let's click this little star. Based on the bank description, TIC pad, no similar transactions. So it's just based on limited text. So it doesn't actually have any idea. I wish it just said, we don't know, because it doesn't have any idea. Let's see, the memo suggests purchases related to office supplies, which aligns with office expenses. No, it doesn't. It's a pre-authorized debit. How is that office supplies? Sorry, I'm experiencing this for the first time with you right now. Anywho, so what we're going to do is it's letting us categorize it. So this is actually going to be auto insurance. There it is. And it is exempt. Like I said before, the taxes are RST, so there is no GST or HST. And the supplier is TIC, or the insurance company right there. And the memo will keep. So I've lined this up so that when I create a rule, it's all set and ready to go. So now I can say create rule. And it is TIC, the insurance company. Money out. Description contains TIC pad. Now, the insurance company, Sarah might switch her commercial insurance here, or she might put in her personal auto insurance to the bank for some reason. And so I'm going to add a condition. I'm going to add that the amount equals, as per the paperwork over here, 100.44. So now if any other insurance comes out, the rule won't apply, okay? Because all of the following, just make sure it's not any, it's all, okay? So expense, auto insurance, TIC. I don't want to replace the memo, to be honest. Let's just get rid of that. And auto add, always off, except for a couple of exceptions, which we get to talk about this month. So now I'm going to go ahead and save. Now I'm just saving the rule. And you can see it hasn't entered the transaction into QuickBooks. It's got it lined up. It knows what it wants to say. So let's see if I can just shrink this up. So now it knows what it wants to say. The to from is kind of a small size, but I like how we can resize these columns. So that's nice. Not that it's giving me, there we go. And so I'm going to go ahead and post this bank feed info line. Remember what that means? It means entering a QBO transaction the shortcut way. So I'm going to go ahead and post it. It's giving me some ideas. Thank you. And I'm not quite done yet. This is something that is a Naomi way of doing bookkeeping. So whenever a reoccurring charge occurs, like the insurance, for example, or a subscription, what I liked, or a bank loan or something, and we'll look at that, for that first charge, that's where I attach the paperwork so that we always know moving forward why that charge is pre-authorized and reoccurring. So let's go to what we just entered. So we just entered this expense. Remember, we did it the shortcut way from the bank feed, and this is the big screen way. Here's the QBO transaction married to its bank feed info line. And I'm just going to go ahead and add this attachment. So it was in week 1. With notes, charges, there it is, and we'll add that. So now whenever the amount changes, there's going to be a reason for that. That will trigger us to know that there's new insurance paperwork. And for this reoccurring one, whenever the amount changes, now I know, oh, whenever a new amount is happening, that is when we're going to see the insurance paperwork. On the first entry of that change. So we don't have to add it to every single one. So there we go. We're going to go save and close. All right, let's see what is next in the charges folder. A Home Depot credit card receipt, and I suggest small tools and equipment. And then I also note that you can actually look up the code when you get like Home Depot or Canadian Tire, and you can look up on Home Depot's website or Canadian Tire's website, and then you can add into this description what was actually purchased. Whenever I use a small tools and equipment expense GL account, it's sort of a list of everything that's in the shed sort of thing. If Sarah ever wants to go ahead and sell the business and all of the tools, we can see like a nice list, even though it's not an asset, because again, it's below $500. So this isn't an equipment asset. We're going to expense this. That's why I call it small tools and equipment, but I still like to put in the description so that she has a list of all of the tools and equipment, both on her asset list and also on the expense list if she ever does go to sell the business. So let's go ahead and put this in. I'm going to go to New, Expense. And this is Home Depot. And it was actually paid by the Triangle, 5252. And that was June 3rd. And I'm going to say small tools and equipment expense, and that, actually, I'll just pull that up. So you can see I have put in the part number that we see there. I'm going to go hit search, and we can see it is a Millside metal deck garden wagon. And I'm going to just put that in the description there. And then the amount was $219 with HST and $247.47. And I'm going to go ahead and save and new. Let's see what is next. Next, we have Amazon. And let's see, it doesn't say how it was paid, but it does say, oh, wait, down here on the third page it does. Isn't this interesting? So it's paid by 5252, so that is the business credit card. And notice that there's actually a gift card. So this is sort of when you go onto Amazon and you can like download either the transaction details or the invoice. Sarah has given us both, which is very useful because she used a gift card. Let's see. So you can see this is the invoice section, and then she also added the transaction printout as well for us. So this is going to be a fun one to enter because it's got a gift card that she used. Let's go ahead and put this in. So there are actually a couple of different ways that we could put this in. So one way would be, let me just pull this over, is you can put in a bill. If you put in a bill for the total amount of, so the subtotal, what was the total amount? 3307. So you could put in a bill for 3307, and then you can mark $25 of it as paid by cash, or paid by owner, right? Because it's her gift card. We don't have any history of that gift card in the business right now. It's just her personal Amazon account. So she got a gift card from somewhere and she's using it to purchase stuff for her business. So we're just going to treat that as either cash or owner's draw, right? And then we can pay the remaining $8.07 with the credit card. So that is one way of putting it in as a bill, partially paying it with gift card, and paying the remainder with the triangle M card. I'm going to show you how to put it in with one entry instead of three. So let's go ahead. We paid Amazon, Amazon.ca, and I'm going to say this is paid by the triangle. So since this is paid by the triangle M card, this amount right here that we're going to have hit the card has to say, or needs to say $8.07, because we're not putting this in as a bill. We're putting it in as an expense. And so that was June 7th, I believe. Yeah, June 7th. So let's go ahead and say June 7th. And you can put the reference number in from Amazon if you want. And this was office supplies, which I have in as office expenses. And it's exclusive of tax, so I can say $29.27. There it is. So we'll say $29.27 plus HST. Let's see, does that come to $33.08? Nope, $33.07. So we got to fix that tax. Oh, look, it even says the tax here is 80 cents. So we can just pop that in there. All right, so that's step one. We might have to change that because we're going to add another line. Because now what I can say is I can say cash here if I want. Not register cash, but just regular sort of a cash account. The register cash we're going to reconcile, and we'll talk about that later. Or we can say paid by owners, CC or bank. So owners, CC or bank. It's not their CC or their bank. So I feel like I'm just going to say cash in this case, like this, just to avoid confusion. Just a generic cash account. And I'm going to say minus 25. And I'm going to actually put in the description, paid by owner by gift card. I'll just say gift card so we know what's going on there. And that's minus 25 at a scope. And again, the HST we just need to fix one more time. There it is. So 807. So now you can see how we've got 807 going to hit up the triangle MC, That's what the line is going to look like on the statement. We've put in all of the expense and HST, and then we've subtracted the $25 and said cash. And again, you could have said paid by owner or owner's bank or CC there as well. All right, so now I'm going to go save and new because that one is now in. Okay, what is next? We have Esso. Let's open this one up. Now this Esso is a little different because it is diesel. Notice that it's diesel. And we know that on June 2nd, she purchased the work truck, and we've talked with her, and we know that that truck is going to be used for 90% more or for business. So that means we can claim all of the auto expenses and gas for this vehicle. Makes it nice and easy, eh? And what also makes this easy is that it's diesel. So that is part of the reason that in this case study, I've got like an auto gas expense account and an auto diesel expense account. Now, I've since decided actually that that's a bit too much detail, because if you just see an Esso charge and you don't have a receipt, then you don't necessarily know if it's diesel or gas, and you're forced to pick one. And now we've got some red herrings because then people trust that you're right when you're just guessing. So I was back and forth of whether I should change that or not, and I might for next time. But I can say for right now that we see a diesel charge, we can claim 100% for business. And so and I've also talked to my quote unquote fake person, Sarah, and said, please no longer pay for your personal car's gas through the business account, because now you're only going to be any auto expenses I want to see now through the business account have to only be for your work truck. So I communicated that with Sarah. So here we go. Let's go ahead and put this one in. Okay, so this is Esso, and it was paid by the triangle, and that was June 7th. And instead of putting it to owner's draw, we're just going to go right to diesel. Oh, wait, did I put it in there? DIE, auto diesel. So you can see that if I had just said auto, in this case study, we've got auto gas, auto diesel. So again, I don't know if I like that anymore, but we'll take that out. And we are going to claim the HST on this, and it is included. So I'm going to say inclusive of tax. That's just how these receipts work. And we're going to say $92.99, and that means $10.70, as it is here, $10.70. And we are going to go save and close because that is the last entry in the charges folder. So that's it for the charges for June, week number 1. Next up, the bills video.